Hey guys, Shadowson here. Welcome back to my channel. This is the last part in this series on blindness and my personal practice, and I'm really excited with how this series came out. I'm excited for what's to come next. In addition to just creating this series was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed making all of the videos, and I hope that you guys have learned something and learn ways to understand blindness in addition to other things related to paganism and witchcraft. So today I want to talk about accessibility, and accessibility means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And for me, accessibility means access to everything, not just basic things like books or videos or things like that, but I mean everything from healthcare to all that stuff. And I think that correlates to a lot of general societal things because a lot of people struggle with healthcare even if you don't have a disability. I mean, you could have a chronic illness or you could have all kinds of other stuff going on and need healthcare or housing or any type of anything. But I think when it comes to disability, it tends to play a more prominent role just because we have to do a lot more to get access to certain things, and how accessibility relates to my own practice would be what I have access to. So for example, I struggle with getting to meetings or classes in my area sometimes. Festivals would be a big example. Participating in a group ritual wouldn't necessarily be an issue, but I think that there's a little more to consider with that in terms of maybe how the ritual is laid out, who's supposed to stand where, or what is supposed to take place within that setting in addition to other aspects. I think accessibility can be translated into all kinds of communities, not just witchcraft, but I see it in various other communities having access to what they need on a daily basis, like I said. In addition to that, access in terms of what you read, and I know I've talked about this prior in a different video on reading, but reading blogs or watching a YouTube video presents its own challenges. And I actually want to say thank you to all the people who are creating videos with voiceover input, in the context of you're, narrating and doing your voiceover, describing what you're doing in those videos is very helpful to somebody who's blind and visually impaired like myself. I find those videos to be very useful, and I'm learning a lot from other people and other practitioners and what they can offer and what their practices are like. And that could go for blogs as well, adding what they call alt text to picture descriptions, which is basically text added to the photograph in order for a screen reader to read it, and it also can add more traffic to the website. And I posted about this in the blog post that will be linked below. Also, in terms of accessibility, I wanted to mention how creating things like sigils and symbols could be something worth mentioning. So in a lot of books, they have pictures, and in order for me to access those pictures, I have to come up with either a description or take the concept apart and figure out what that concept might be, or have someone describe the image and then work through that within the context of what I'm reading. So example, sigils or other symbols. And I really have to say that books are coming a long way in terms of getting access to them and what types of books I have access to. But I think that there's more involved with accessibility, and I think that accessibility should be at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. And I think inclusion is very important, not just for people with disabilities, but people as a whole. And I think that just making sure you be as descriptive as possible with the video. So like when I watch a tutorial, I know I have all these services available to me and things available to me to work around that, but I also think it's important for video creators and content creators to understand that we're part of your viewers, and to be mindful of that. And I think a lot of people are. I just think it's something that should be brought up to understand that if it affects a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, if I couldn't hear, I would need closed captioning and things like that. If I couldn't use my hands, I could dictate or do other things. And I'm not an expert on any of other disabilities, but the only disability that I know of, and I can't really speak to anybody else. But I think accessibility should be something that should be considered and discussed more frequently, not just within the pagan and witchcraft communities, but in all communities. So that's just my thoughts and opinions on accessibility. I have more stuff written here in the blog post below, but my main points again are just learning how to adapt within the confines of a solitary practice, and learning how to access materials. In addition to, I love reading a lot of blogs and watching a lot of videos, like I mentioned, and having those voiceover people, I don't know, what do they call that? Voiceover videos with their descriptions of what they're doing and what herbs they're putting in their incenses, and what plants they're using and why you're using those plants. Those are important because you're understanding, and I'm understanding as a visually impaired person who can't see well enough to see all the finer details in the video, what is being done and why it's important to your practice, which I think is very important, because I could be learning a whole new aspect of how I make incense or how I set up my altar, having a description of your altar and why those things are important. I love altar tours. I love Books of Shadows tours. And I love watching people share their magical texts and having a description of that magical text, whether it's a scrapbook, notebook, and how you handwrite or how you type or how you organize your files. Those are really amazing things, and without the descriptions, without the backstory, without you commenting on which page is which as you flip through the book, is very useful and very important. Provides that missing link there. I feel like there's a lot of gaps that I miss with a lot of videos that are just music and just people holding stuff up, so to speak. But I think people are doing great. I love all the videos and people that I watch, and I don't want anyone to think that I am not liking the content or anything of that nature. I just wanted to bring accessibility to the forefront of the conversation for everyone, included on YouTube, who is a pagan and a witch. I think it's something that is seldomly discussed, and it needs to be discussed a lot more often. So those are just, again, my 2 cents. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or anything of that nature, you want to see something similar to this or other series, please let me know in the comments below, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this series. I will talk to you all soon. Many blessings.